Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another edition of Hilaal Live. Thanks for watching us on channel 347 on DSTV. Now, the topic of land, or the lack of land, and homelessness, which is then exacerbated by the lack of land, has been on everyone's lips for many years. And I thought, let's have a discussion around that to invite a couple of people into studio that can give us a better idea on what the current situation is and where to from now. First up, no stranger to Hilaal TV, I'd like to welcome Igshaan Higgins, an attorney. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to yourself and to the listeners.
Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. You've got a wealth of knowledge and we're going to tap into that as well. And then also a member of Provincial Parliament, Mr. Dawayne Gilbert Jacobs. Good evening and welcome.
Thank you, sir. Welcome.
Guys, it's an interesting topic that I think our audience would appreciate, the sensitivity around this, and also what government is doing or not doing, and how do we, where do we go? Because nobody knows what to do as well. In terms of the legal mechanisms, Igshaan, what exists to ensure homeless individuals have access to necessary support services, things like counseling, things like looking for jobs, because that will alleviate some of the poverty that a lot of our communities are facing right now?
Firstly, I think those are the things that you mentioned. That's the soft issues. But let's look at the harder issues. The first hard issue is that the homeless people do not have access to land.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. We need to have a situation where government needs to get its act together in respect of Section 25, where it comes to land. They're all harping on the issue that we need to change the constitution so that we can get to the land without compensation. That is actually just an excuse.
Yeah.
The reality is there is land. There's lots of land available.
Right.
It's parastatals that holds a lot of land. There's land parcels available that belongs to government, belongs to the city, belongs to the province. And I think we need to change our linguistic sense. Or rather we need to change wording. Whenever we speak about government departments, we say the city owns a piece of land. Now the reality is the city don't own any land. The city is merely holding it on behalf of the citizens of South Africa. They are merely holders of land. They got the fiduciary duty to distribute that land, but they don't. We see in the newspapers, they're selling parcels of land. They're selling buildings off to private individuals via auctions. That's wrong.
Yeah.
That land is actually, it does not belong to the city. It does not belong to the province. It does not belong to the state. It belongs to the citizens of this country.
Okay. So we're going to delve into that as well. But Dawayne, you've worked on the ground. We've seen you, confront various issues via your political affiliation as well. What's the current status? I mean, where do we find ourselves right now, especially in the West?
With regards to housing.
That's correct. Well, the lack of housing and especially, homelessness as well.
Yeah. Look, I think if we look into it, the problem that we have is since the time that the Democratic Alliance took over. Remember, there was a housing list from 1994.
Right.
And before that. Since they took over, that list has disappeared.
Really?
That list has disappeared. And that has put a lot of people back into the line. Okay. Because if you look at what's happening now, and we don't always want to refer to it, but you see there's people coming from other provinces and they are being prioritized firstly here within the Western Cape.
Okay.
Now we must ask ourselves, what's happening to those people that has been on the waiting list for so many years? What's happening to those people that was forcefully removed from the comfortable homes that they were in? Why are we not talking about that? Because that is the problem that we have. If we look today, we never had such a lot of homeless people.
Of course.
But people are being evicted. They are being evicted from the very same homes that they were thrown in from the apartheid era.
Right.
One would have thought that these houses would have they would have become the owners of these houses. But if you look at it today, people are still being evicted. Now the problem that we have, remember the Constitution outlines that you are entitled to a house. Every citizen is entitled to a house. But now, they're not sticking to the constitution anymore. Remember, it have changed from housing to human settlement.
Right.
Which means when you talk about human settlement, you can give people anything. Humans must settle there. And that is how they change it. When you look at the province in itself, there's no more human settlement. It has become infrastructure. And that is the main reason why we're sitting where we're sitting now today. There's a lack of houses because money is being sent back to national. There's a lack of houses because they would refer to extortion. But we have a big problem because at the end of the day, government is messing up and our people is not being prioritized. I'm just going to make an example with you. In Beacon Valley, we have a situation where the ward councillors, Democratic Alliance, don't like the people that stays in the house. So he came, the sisters is staying in the house. They put the house on the younger daughter's name just to spite that people. Now, one must now understand that little daughter is now going to put these people out. That's 2 families. They're going to be out on the street.
Right.
That is why we have the problem that we have, because we have people that is causing the problem. And mainly when you see, it's coming from the other side. So I think from our side, we've given them so much proposals. We said, okay, guys, if you have a problem where you say there's extortion, give the people land. Give the people land, give them the material, let them build their own houses, then there's no contractors involved.
Right.
But you must remember, the main contractors is always the friends of the friends. And that is why we're sitting where we're sitting.
We've heard about the extortion in the construction industry as well. That's quite rife these days as well. We've seen that on the rise. But Igshaan, in terms of, you've followed, political affiliations to various parties, but in terms of when it came to, the elections, there were so many promises that were made. And they said, look, post-elections, we're going to do X, Y, and Z. But those have not come to fruition. How do we put more pressure on the powers that be to start making those promises come to light?
Yeah, I think it's a very important question. Let's start at the Freedom Charter even. It says there shall be houses, security, and comfort. And as my comrade is saying, that the Constitution also speaks about houses. You have the right to housing.
Yeah.
That's what the Constitution speaks about. But the problem is, firstly, there's not enough houses in this country to accommodate everybody. But at the same time, the biggest enemy of the people, it's actually evictions. There shouldn't be an eviction without a resettlement.
Right.
That should go hand in hand. You can't say to 2 families, you're out on the street, because where are they going to go to? And so there should be a policy that those politicians that we all voted for, that they should actually have a policy in government, in parliament, whereby they lobby for the issue of eviction to be addressed with the issue of resettlement. So I think if we keep these people accountable on that score, so there's the whole issue of the resettlements. Now the question is, how do you resettle people? Where do you resettle people?
Yeah.
Through what mechanisms do you resettle people? Like the government at this point, the local government started selling off properties. If they do have properties, there should be a public-private partnership, which you can massage to a point where you say to a developer, you can develop your private units up to a point.
Right.
So there's possibilities for tax breaks, there's possibilities for subsidies,
Gotcha.
there's possibilities for various mechanisms to ease the financial burden on that particular contractor. But that contractor at the same time must commit to build a certain amount of units for people that do not have housing.
Good idea.
So that is part of the resettlement structure. So politicians must start thinking out of the box.
Okay. Dawayne, what's the way forward? We see articles in the newspaper, on the internet. We see videos going around with people being evicted, homelessness increasing, which then exacerbates other social issues as well. What's the way forward?
Change your vote.
Change
Your vote.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest. You know, it's not like we want to play the political game, but if something haven't worked for you for years, you need to change it in order for you to see the change. That is how I see it, because let's go back quickly. There's communique. There's a lot of houses that communique owns. It's communique.
Right.
They own a lot of pieces of land. They're only supposed to look after it. Why don't government open up? Because the minute they start to open up and they make use of these lands that is available for our people, housing shouldn't be a problem. But I just want to come in quickly. We're going to have a massive problem. I mean, we've been out, I'm the provincial chair for our party. So it's my duty to go right all over the province. And what I've seen, it's painful. Our people that has been staying on the farms for 50, 60 years, you know that all of them are being thrown off the farms because the farmers are now taking on the foreigners. Now, most of those people are homeless. There's nothing there. What do those people do? They come to town. Where do they stay? They stay on the street here. So that is the problem that we have. But if we look around, we see there's gated communities that's being built. Land is being sold to people from overseas, but there's no land for our people. So if government must really open up and make these lands available and don't send that money back, there will be enough houses for our people.
Good point. Gentlemen, thanks very much. We've run out of time. We would like to continue this at a later date as well, and we'll keep our viewers abreast of all the situations happening. Thanks. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
That's the first half of Hilaal Live, speaking about the land and homelessness issues that we face in our country. Do stay tuned. We'll be back after the break.